Hey there folks, Aldershot here, and we're going to be recapping all of E3, and obviously since the first day's past us, we're going to recap the first day in this video, and every other day following this, we will be recapping E3 to its full extent, I guess, or at least as full as I'm able to watch it anyway, so it'll be kind of a little quick recap and some of my thoughts on the happenings, right? But anyways, the day started off with the Nintendo World Championship 2015, which was pretty interesting. I wasn't a big fan of the pre-show. It was just a bunch of people playing like Kirby Yarn or something like that on the couch, which I initially thought was the championship, and I was quite disappointed. I didn't like that very much, but quickly learned that it was actually just a pre-show, so I was happy to learn that. I thought it was just going to be like a lazy toss together, right? Like I remember the World Championship from the 1990s being really flashy and bright lights and crowds and high production value and all this kind of extravagant dealings, right? So I was kind of hoping for that, and it actually happened. Once the pre-show was over, the championship actually started, and it was everything I just described. It was big and flashy and crowds and high production value and all that kind of crazy stuff, so I was pretty happy to see that. It was very interesting watching a bunch of gamers play a bunch of games that they've had no idea what they were going to play in order to compete. So I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. Definitely harkens back to the original spirit of the original World Championships. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. We got to see a few new Nintendo games. I forget what it's called, but one of the more interesting ones that they got to show off was that new Mario game where you can kind of create your own levels and stuff like that. I forget the name of it now, but it's like Make a Mario or Super Make a Mario or something like that. But either way, I thought it was really cool. It kind of looked like RPG Maker, but for Mario games, right? Probably not going to be quite as detailed as RPG Maker, but obviously we don't know. We only had a few short glimpses of it, but it looked really cool. The levels that they designed looked pretty interesting, pretty creative. And yeah, so I'm kind of excited to see more of that game actually. And also they showed off what else did they show off that I thought was really cool? Right. They competed, not really showed off, but they competed in a Metroid speedrun during the World Championship as well. And I thought that was really cool because, I used to play a fair amount of Metroid. Well, not a whole lot, but I really enjoyed it anyways back in the day. I think Fusion was my favorite. But either way, the speed run to the exit for the last level, that was really cool. That was really cool. I'm glad they brought back an old classic for the Nintendo Championship 2015. So I actually really enjoyed that, surprisingly. I thought it was going to be kind of lame. I was a little hesitant on it, but I'm glad my cynicism didn't get the better of me, and I actually got a fair amount of enjoyment out of it. It was fairly long. It was like 4 hours long, but yeah, pretty interesting. Oh, something else that's kind of worth noting during the Nintendo World Championship that I thought was kind of interesting was during the Splatoon competition, one of the devs brought out his 9-year-old kid to help commentate the Splatoon action, if you will, right? I mean, it was really cute. It was an interesting idea, but that kid, let me tell you, he's going to be quite the ladies' man when he grows up, because confidence is not an issue for that little one. He was talking the whole time and, being cute and 9 years old and all that stuff, loving the Splatoon. But, admittedly, he did kind of talk over the commentators sometimes. It was getting a little bit annoying, albeit cute, but a little bit annoying. Alright? An interesting experiment nonetheless. It's kind of nice to see them try new things, if nothing else, right? But that's pretty much the Nintendo segment of E3 that I can, have any real thoughts on. I mean, they introduced a couple of new Smash Brother characters as well, but, I don't have a Wii U, and this is a PC gaming channel, so I'm probably never going to be able to play those games, unfortunately. But anyways, got the hiccups right now. Excuse me. Some other notable games that I saw during E3 was definitely Dishonored 2, Doom, and of course Fallout 4. Now, when these games were being kind of shown off and talked about, I was actually in a podcast with some friends, Sessification, and Ginger Dragon, right? We were talking about E3. We were actually streaming E3 while talking over E3 about E3. So I never actually got to hear those segments. I got to see them, right? We were talking about them, and we had chats on Twitch relay the information to us because we couldn't actually hear it. But regardless of that, I still kind of want to talk about some of the stuff I saw, if not here. And obviously, I'm going to talk about Doom, because that looks really cool. It definitely looks heads over heels over Doom 3. As Ginger Dragon said in the stream, it looks like that they've kind of left the whole survival horror thing behind them, and they're going more pure action, which I kind of like. You know, it harkens back to the original spirit of Doom. You know, that was never really a survival horror game. That was an action FPS essentially. And I think if they take the template that the latest Wolfenstein laid down, I think Doom has a place on the market. I think it can do very, very well. It looked cool. You know, the gameplay that they showed during E3 definitely looked cool. Definitely looked bloody and gory and everything you would want and expect from a game like Doom. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, we're not going to jump to conclusions quite yet, but it looks promising. It definitely looks promising. I'm really hoping for another Wolfenstein, essentially, because I really enjoyed that game. I gave it quite a good impression on the channel. It kind of brings back the kind of action FPS genre, which, you know, you ask anybody, no one will say that the action FPS genre is an endangered genre in video games. But you really think about it, there's not that many being made. Last one was, that I can recall, is Wolfenstein, right? Every other FPS that's being made these days are either simulations, or a walking simulator, or a survival game, or a military shooter, or a tactical shooter. You know, the days of action FPS it's kind of behind us, to be honest. So I'm kind of glad to see Doom bringing it back. Hopefully they'll do a good job, obviously. I have high hopes, but we'll see, obviously. Then there's also Dishonored 2. To be honest, I don't have that much thoughts on it because I didn't play Dishonored 1. I know, blasphemy, right? Blasphemy. What kind of gamer am I? But yeah, that's it, man. Can't play them all. Gotta pick and choose your battles, right? So because of that, all I can say is it looks cool. It looks cool. I still gotta play the first one. Alright, well anyways, I guess we can move on from there. The last thing I want to talk about, obviously, is Fallout 4, right? That's the biggie. That's the biggie. And everyone was waiting for it. This is definitely looking like a big year for Bethesda, though. Doom is being partially produced by Bethesda. They're definitely at least publishing it, I believe. Either way, they have their hands in it. And they're pushing out Dishonored 2, and with the announcement of Fallout 4, Bethesda's definitely pushing out some fine stuff this year, right? Hopefully fine stuff, I should say. But anyways, Fallout 4, yeah, they showed us more gameplay, you know. I'm sure most of us have already saw the original release trailer, which a lot of people concluded that was in-game graphics because admittedly the character models didn't look all that high fidelity in comparison to other AAA games today, right? And I think today on E3 it confirmed that the release trailer was pretty much gameplay and graphics, which is great. You know, I have no issues with it. I know a lot of people are kind of criticizing it a little bit because it's not like, oh, look at all these fancy lights and graphics and stuff like that. But I think Bethesda is just being careful. They don't want a sleeping dog on their hand. You know what I mean, right? As in, like, not living up to the trailer's visuals when it comes to release, right? So I'm okay with that. Honestly, I'm perfectly okay with honest trailers, really. But regardless of that, it looks cool. Something that we were talking about in the stream when we were watching all the gameplay footage, Ceci and Ginger Dragon, I mean, was that it was a lot more colorful, it was a lot more bright. They seem to be going for a definitely a slightly different look this time around, which is kind of interesting. See how that goes. But I also mentioned that, you know, the graphics might not look the best of the best that we've ever seen, especially considering games that we already have, like The Witcher 3, for example. We haven't seen it with mods yet, right? So there's that to be considered. And also, something that's kind of new and big announced about Fallout 4 is the ability to craft and make buildings and shacks in your own town. And there's it seems to be some tower defense thing going on as well, which I thought was kind of interesting. And you can craft your own weapons and mix and match parts and stuff like that. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm kind of hoping that this whole crafting thing means that they might go more of a focus on survival. Maybe? Like, this is pure speculation, guys. Don't even consider this a rumor. This is just me speculating. But from, you know, all the crafting stuff, it reminds me of playing survival games and the crafting system in those games. And the setting and environment of Fallout isn't that far off from a lot of survival games. It already, you know, especially with certain mods for Fallout games that are already out now, you know, it can very much be treated as a survival game, right? So I think if they decide to go more of a survival route, or even just add a little spice of survival into Fallout 4, I think it's very suiting for a post-apocalyptic game like Fallout, right? So we'll see how that goes. It's going to go either one of two ways, right? Based on the gameplay footage that we saw during E3. It's either going to be build a bunch of stuff for some sort of mini tower defense game, which I'm kind of hoping it's not, or it's a little bit kind of like a survival game where you have to build your own shelter and find food and stuff like that, which I think would be really cool for the survival game, or not survival game, for Fallout 4. But obviously, with a long dark Let's Play series on this channel, I have an obvious bias towards survival games, right? So take that as you will. But that pretty much wraps up for E3 Day 1. Pretty strong Day 1, I have to say. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the Nintendo World Championship. Bethesda had so much good stuff to show. Absolutely fantastic things to show. So yeah, excited to see what Day 2 brings. And we'll talk more about that on Day 3, because I have to watch it and render it and then let you guys know. So obviously always a day behind, but there you go, right? It's just the way you have it. It has to work. Well, anyways, guys, that pretty much wraps it up. So keep watching. We will cover Day 2's E3 tomorrow. So we'll see you then, guys. All a shout out.